Welcome to Real Life Mentoring, where we explore real life issues to help you make an authentic difference in the world.
Well, in February of 1949, the world heard this phrase that I think is pretty recognizable. Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman. Wah!
Oh, I thought you were talking about me, but I was not near born in 1947, 49, whenever you said.
Okay, well, that was my little creative intro for this week, talking about what are men's kryptonite. Is that grammatically correct? What is your kryptonite if you're a man?
Well, can you define kryptonite? That's important.
Yeah, you define kryptonite. What is,
well, no, kryptonite from Superman's perspective.
Right, it was the thing that made him crumble. Like, he wasn't
he lost his
so
strength.
Super after he encountered his kryptonite.
Material touched him, he lost his strength.
Right.
Okay.
He was no longer Superman.
Right.
So, let's bring it back to current times right now. You have had a recent experience. You're gonna tell us about it, but today we're going to talk about what is your kryptonite. If you're a man listening, and if you're a woman, listen to this, because I think this will be very insightful for you to know how to come alongside the man in your life, whether it be a husband, a brother, a friend. Today's just going to be very insightful. So, Chris, tell us, get us started.
Last year, I decided to gather different men. I'm part of a church. I thought I'm going to gather these men for breakfast, and there were probably 12, 15 of us, and we'd have good food and good conversation. But I can tell you with most men, good conversation, what I mean by that is not surface conversation, but meaningful conversation.
You're not talking about sports.
May not happen. It
Right.
will not happen unless someone initiates it.
Sure.
So as a guy who would lead this, I'd go, okay, we're going to talk about this topic or whatever. And so I was very deliberate in planning that. And as long as you have someone who will initiate that, most guys will grab a hold of it. So we gathered in this home, and we had good breakfast. And when I introduced the topic, and I said, today, guys, one of my friends, he's going to share a good portion of his story. And he and I talked ahead of time. I said, I want you to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of your story. And so he began to share, and you would see these guys, their eyes getting wider, going, wow, I can't believe you really dealt with that. Because he is I would say this guy who shared his story comes across as a confident man. He is. He was a retired firefighter. He's not afraid to work. He's not afraid to get in there and get his hands dirty. He knows how to connect with men. And what happens, we can assume from the outside appearance of someone, we make judgments many times.
Sure.
Oh, you're good to go. You have all these strengths and abilities, and you're talented, good personality. You connect well with other people. You have no problems. The reality is there's kryptonite.
Sure.
You know, there's struggles and challenges that weaken all of us.
Now, did these men know one another? Was this a gathering of people who were strangers?
It was a mix, and
okay.
I like that. I purposely want to gather something like that. So you could leave that meeting, that gathering, that breakfast, knowing someone that you didn't know before, or knowing them at a deeper level. And so let me share this. So men don't want to get up early on a Saturday morning to go to a house or a restaurant and have food. They can eat at home, go to a restaurant someplace else. They want to come and get something from it.
Okay.
They may not say that, so we need to have real conversations about some topics that will help and encourage men.
Okay.
So that's important to know. The challenge is that men desire deep relationships.
Sure.
I know this as a mentor, and I mentored guys various ages over various years, different cultures. Men want meaningful relationships with other men. It doesn't happen accidentally, though. It has to happen on purpose. So
I noticed that you'd ask one man to share his story. You were intentional about getting the conversation started.
Yes, I had gone after him. It's kind of how I am.
Yeah.
I meet a guy, I'm going after this guy, and I want
Right.
to know about him. I want to know his story.
Sure.
And man, I get so encouraged am blessed when I hear another man's story
Mm-hmm.
because trust is built. And I was thinking about this. I believe men are waiting for other men to engage them in conversations which will lead to authentic and trusting friendships. They're waiting for these. I believe that godly friendships help men go through difficulties.
Sure.
And they, left to ourselves, will be islands as men.
Mm-hmm.
I can handle this. I can do this. That's sometimes put upon us from our original families.
Mm-hmm.
It's put upon us sometimes by our culture. As a man, figure it out yourself. Do it. You can do it. And you become an island, and you're crumbling sometimes underneath it all.
Well, I know you always talk about speaking to somebody at a heart level, and you tell us about that. What do you mean when you say you speak to somebody at a heart level?
Well, let's talk about needs,
Okay.
struggles, hopes, dreams, things some guys have never even thought about before, or they've thought about them, but they've never expressed them to
Said
another
them.
person,
Mhm,
not even to their wives.
Yeah.
And so I find that guys are just waiting to be initiated. Here's a reality. We are people of faith,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a true enemy called Satan.
Sure.
And it's in the spirit world, but he attacks us in the real world.
Right.
And men are being attacked every day, women as well.
Right.
And you say, what do you mean being attacked? Mentally,
Mhm.
emotionally, spiritually, and sometimes in other ways. And it causes us as men to get overwhelmed.
Right.
And we can get caught up in our own junk. And again, as I said earlier, we become an island into ourselves.
Well, as I spoke earlier, we're talking about kryptonite. What are the things that steals men's strength? And so I know that you have a list. Maybe it'd be helpful. Just read the list of things that you believe, because of your experience of mentoring and all the years that you've spent in talking with men at a heart level. What are those things that tend to be kryptonite?
Well, what if you read the list and
Okay.
I will take 2 or 3 and expound on those?
Ooh,
Sound
good.
good?
Okay. Well, I have the list in front of me. So here's what you've said so far. Not understanding what manhood is. You're saying that's a kryptonite.
Yes.
Social anxiety. Not knowing how to connect with other men other than service conversations.
Yes.
Okay.
Just read them. Take them
Okay.
away, and I will come back to 2 or 3 of those.
Okay. So here's a third one. Sexual lust in many forms and the patterns men fall into, even in healthy marriages. You said another one is depression. They either don't understand it or they do not believe they can be honest with others about it, especially if they're leaders. Alcoholism and drug use. Good men who take care of their families fall into this category. Loneliness, mental issues, financial issues, lack of understanding how to lead a family, lack of understanding on how to lead a wife, lack of understanding of how to personally connect with children, family dysfunction from childhood that still has a hold of him, sexual identity, lack of understanding of healthy assertiveness. The norm is a man being either passive or aggressive, avoidance of uncomfortable conversations, fear of change, failure, future, measuring up to other men and society, living in a state of shame and guilt, misunderstanding, this is interesting, misunderstanding of the attributes of God, studying the Bible and applying it to your life with authority, and not seeing an opportunity to lead within a church. These are all the things that are pointing out are kryptonite for men.
There are 20 items listed, and there are many more. I just did, and add yours. Leave a blank at the bottom. Add yours in there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, what's one that you want to talk about more in depth?
I think let's talk about loneliness for a minute.
Okay.
It's interesting. I spend most of my days with our work as mentors with people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will meet with men one-on-one. I meet in small groups. I am around people a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there are some days I'm by myself doing administrative work, but I can be around people a lot and still be lonely. And I think about it this way. If I'm around people a lot and I'm talking a lot, but I'm not opening up myself, my heart, and talking about the things that really matter, the things that I'm struggling with, battles in my mind, then I can be in a room of people and be lonely.
Sure.
Makes sense?
Sure.
And I think a lot of men fall into this.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
very much so. I mean, I'm lonely sometimes. And I go, well, Chris, are you not opening up yourself?
Mm-hmm.
I will still struggle with that sometimes. And,
Interesting.
and I want to be open.
Mm-hmm.
But what I find, too, very few men actually initiate conversations like that with me.
Uh-huh.
I have to be the initiator.
Good.
So,
Not good, but I mean,
no, that's
okay.
not-
Yeah.
it can
I get the
be
point.
lonely sometimes. So I understand a man's
Okay.
loneliness. Gosh, there's so many possibilities here. Avoidance of uncomfortable conversations.
Okay. Are you meaning between men or men with wives or men with parents? Or
All of it.
all of it.
All
Okay.
of it. I don't wake up in the morning and go, I get to have an uncomfortable conversation today. I can't
Yeah.
wait. There's a reason it's called uncomfortable.
Sure.
It's uncomfortable.
Sure.
It stresses me. What's the other person going to think? But what happens, that's where avoidance and procrastination kick in.
Sure.
And if I need to have an uncomfortable conversation with you as my wife, but I let fear take control and I push it away, you might think I don't care about a particular topic that you think I should care about, right?
Sure.
But I may really care about it. I'm just afraid to address it and talk
To
about
address
it.
Yeah.
Same with our children. We have 3 adult daughters now. If I don't initiate the conversation just because it's uncomfortable, I'm going to misunderstand some people. They're going to misunderstand me. I may hurt some feelings and damage relationships.
Sure. And so what I just want to point out that all men may not be uncomfortable with the same things, but what you're saying is all men will feel uncomfortable about certain things, and that is a kryptonite for them.
Well, that's why I have a list of at least 20
Yeah.
items and more.
Right.
It doesn't mean, guys may go, I don't struggle with that. It's not an issue for me. It's not a weakness for me. It is for some.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can go down this list. I'd have to look at it in detail later, but I probably have battled every one of these at some point in my life. Again, you're looking at a journey.
Right.
There's some things on this list that are in the past. That's not an issue for me anymore.
Sure.
And I could go, if I'm talking to a guy and he says, I'm struggling with this, and I've already been through that, I have 2 choices. I can go, that's no big deal
Right.
because I've been through it. Or I go, wait a minute, what did it feel like when I was going through it?
Right. Because you're diminishing what he's experiencing by saying, hey, that's not a big deal.
And I never would want to do that on purpose. But honestly, it gives me more compassion for him because I've been through that.
Sure.
However, if I've not had a struggle or a challenge and the guy is going through that, I could also write it off and think, I don't get it. Why is that a struggle? However, be careful. In the future, that could be one of mine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's numerous ones we could talk about.
Is there another one on that list that you specifically want to bring out, or do you want to go on to something else?
Not understanding what manhood is.
Okay.
I was raised by a single mother. Overall, she did a good job, but she could not teach me how to be a man.
Sure.
She could not introduce manhood to me. That required a man doing that. My father, when he was present with us physically, he didn't know how to do that himself. I don't
Sure.
think my dad understood manhood. No, I know that he didn't. And some of you may, how do you know that? You give away what you know.
Right.
So not understanding what real manhood is. I don't have biological sons. I have sons through mentoring,
Yeah.
but I've got 3 daughters.
You've got a son-in-law.
I've got a son-in-law now for 9 months now.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the problem maybe with my relationship with our daughters if I didn't understand my manhood?
Right.
This is interesting. Early on with having children, our girls they want my attention. They'd want to play. They'd want to, hey, Dad, look at this. Or Dad, look at this. Hey, Dad, hear this. And I remember thinking, what's the big deal? I'm just a guy.
Yeah.
Why am I so important? I did not understand my own manhood, my role as a father, and how critical that was. Not that I didn't want to spend time with my daughters. I didn't understand the true value of that role as a man in their lives.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I'm so thankful. God has shown me in so many different ways how to grow into that role as a father and understand my manhood that way, that I was able to give my daughter some good things, even in the middle of making a lot of mistakes.
Well, I think society today, especially for our generation, men have it all together. We think of CEOs and movers and shakers who have all the answers. And what I hear you saying in today's podcast is, you know what? Men are humans and they're fallible and they have kryptonite. And so anything else you want to share in closing on that?
The role of a mentor, guys, can be so critical.
Mm-hmm.
And don't let that scare you, but it's very important. Mentoring is not a title to be gained, okay, to add to a resume, but it is a relationship that can deeply impact men so their families are not destroyed.
Gotcha.
Now, that sounds dramatic, but I promise you, if a man is being battled and being brought down into dark places, he cannot lead his family well, and the family is at risk.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I've been handed the privilege of helping another man develop a strong commitment in his faith in God, because I'm going to talk about that.
Sure.
And my faith is in Christ. I'm going to help give him a solid foundation that will not only impact him personally and help him move beyond these struggles and challenges, and therefore strengthen his family. And here's the reality, though. We're always going to be battled with some struggle or challenge on this earth. That's just how it is. It doesn't have to control us, though. Let me say it again. There's a difference. Are you being battled with struggles and challenges, or are you being controlled? Are they living with you daily? There's a difference.
That's good. So if you're listening, the Kryptonite, it could be a battle that you can overcome with the help of a mentor, is what I hear you saying. Or it could be that thing that really overcomes you, and you lose the battle.
Yeah, it's
Very
good.
good.
It's good to talk about it.
Yeah, it's good to talk about it. So today, what is your kryptonite if you're a man? I hope you gained some good tools. Again, if you need a mentor, look around you. Look for other men who'd be willing to be intentional with you and walk alongside you. And if you are a mentor, boy, we just encourage and affirm you. What you're doing is important. And as always, if something that you listened to today was beneficial for you, we would just encourage you to become a financial partner. Just go to FahrenheitMentoring.org, click on the podcast button, and there's instructions on how to give. As always, thank you for tuning in to Real Life Mentoring Podcast.